Welcome to Adventist Reflections, your network sharing character-building ideas.
Now, to discuss character-building ideas, here is your host, Dr. Danzy.
Hi family, welcome back to the Adventist Reflections podcast. Today we speak of the need to clarify aspects of worship in education. And they are based on two passages in Scripture found in the book of Daniel chapter 3 and Revelation chapter 14. Daniel chapter 3 brings to us a story where there was a king. His name was Nebuchadnezzar, and he was the ruler of the biggest empire of the ancient world, as it was known in ancient Bible history. He dominated the kingdom of Babylon. It is interesting to see that what takes place in this story is much related to worship. The kind of belief that this king had, his desire, his drive, was that of dominion, control, and worship. And it was built on a massive belief system as known in the kingdom of what we know as Babylon. He built a massive statue of gold, which was more than 27 meters high and more than 3 meters wide. The command was given that all people were to bow down before this statue as a sign of worship. And indeed, everyone did bow down. Everyone except for 3 friends. 3 Jewish friends who worship the God who made the heavens, the earth, the fountains of water, and all that in them is. So, who were these friends? What drove their disobedience against this earthly kingdom, against this king, their king? We take this story from verses 14 and chapter 3 of the book of Daniel. Here the king asked to these 3 friends the following: "Is it true that you will not be my servants? Is it true indeed that you are not willing to bow down to the image of gold which I have set up?" The answers of these 3 men must have astonished the king as much as he became quickly angry. And indeed, it will have astonished the king as much as it could astonish you and I. They said, "There is no need for us to give you an answer to this question." Wow. "If our God, whose servants we are, is able to keep us safe from the burning and flaming fire and from your hands, O king, he will keep us safe. But if not, be certain, O king, that we will not be the servants of your gods, or give worship to the image of gold which you have put up." The story concludes that these men were thrown into a furnace fire that was so hot that the men that threw these three friends died instantaneously as they pushed them through. In this case, God chose to deliver such men and reward their faithfulness as witness to all who were present and involved in these sins. This is the theme, my Adventist Reflections family. The 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, stood straight to their belief and commitment to God so as to worship one, the God who made the heavens and earth, the sea, the fountains of water, and all that in them is, the only true God, the creator of all things, the ruler of the universe. They decided and committed to worship the only true God, even if such God was not to grant them deliverance from the pain and suffering of being slain by fire. The Bible tells us of a time where such a similar system of worship instituted by Babylon was to be repeated and reestablished. You see, Nebuchadnezzar's Babylonian style of government mixed his power, his displays of luxury and pride with that of enforcing people to a religious system that was against God's commandments. God clearly says in Exodus chapter 20 that we are not to have other gods and that we should not worship images, or having such idols like men like what we admire. We call these men saints. Yes, indeed, God said, worship me and remember me. I have established a day of worship so that you might take the time to remember what I have done. We read about this in Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 to 11, saying, keep in memory the Sabbath day and let it be a holy day. On the 6 days that you have before the Sabbath, you will do all your work, but the 7 days the Sabbath of the Lord your God. On that day you are not to work. Don't work, nor you, nor your son, nor your daughter, your manservant, or your maidservant, or your cattle, or the man from the strange country which is living among you. Basically, your visitors. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth and the sea and everything in them, and he took rest on the 7th day. That is God. For this very reason the Lord God has given his blessing to the 7th day and made it holy. This same ancient story was prophesied to be repeated against those who follow the same God, that is Christ, who came to die on the cross for the sins of all. Over the course of history, we have found this Babylonian system to be instituted by all those who attempt to enforce their religious beliefs on others. Let us be clear here. Hey family, have you listened to the other podcast in the Adventist Reflections Network? We have a couple of options for you. For those who speak Spanish, we have Charlas de Vida, Pan de Hoy, y La Hora del Gluten. Also, for you who is listening to this, it's most likely that you don't speak Spanish or understand it, and that's okay. We also have Gluten Time with Dr. Denzi and Dr. Nard. In that podcast, you will find a different way of sharing ideas that build character. We are sure that you're going to enjoy it. Find it on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or Spotify. Remember, Gluten Time Podcast. There is a difference between sharing one's religious belief system because such person truly believes that this might give a better state of mind, spirituality, and connection with God the Creator. This is what I am doing here in this podcast. And there is a difference between that and a system where if there is a second party involved that do not believe what this first party believes that is best, they are put to death. That is, if I believe something and I make you to believe that, and if you don't believe, I put you to death. That is the Babylonian religious system. Yes. At the end of the day, when the final analysis comes, it's all about worship. That is, whether you live or die until the return of Christ, the same judgment will be executed. The questions at hand are two. Do you worship me who made the heaven and earth, the fountains of water, and all that in them is? And do you worship me how I have chosen to be worshipped? That is what God will ask. Revelation chapter 14 verses 6 to 7 says, "And I saw another angel in flight between heaven and earth, having eternal good news to give to those who are on earth and to every nation and tribe and language and people, saying with a loud voice, have fear of God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment is come, and give worship to him who made heaven and earth, the sea and the fountains of water." Then he continues on saying in verse 8, we're reading from Revelation chapter 14, verse 8. It says, "And a second angel came after, saying, Destruction has come to Babylon the Great, which gave to all nations the wine of the wrath of her evil ways." Yes, my friends, the time is to come when this Babylonian system of worship will be repeated, but will also be put to an end. The oppression must be ceased. The push to worship has such systems, and its leaders' demand must cease against those who worship God and believe in the commandments given by God in the Bible. Verses 9 and 12 then conclude, "And the third angel came after them, saying with a loud voice, If any man gives worship to the beast and his image, and has his mark on his brow, or on his forehead, or on his hand, to him will be given of the wine of God's wrath, which is ready and mixed in the cup of his wrath, and he will have cruel pain, burning with fire before the holy angels and before the Lamb, and the smoke of their pain goes up forever and ever, and they have not rest day or night, who give worship to the beast in his image, and have on them the mark of his name. Here is the quiet strength of the saints, who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Yes, my Adventist Reflections family, it is all about how God wishes for us to worship as well. And yes, it is all about when God desires us to worship. Today most people follow and partially accept God's commandments. And as given in the Bible in the books of Exodus. When you think about it, everybody believes that we should not kill, not murder, rather, and we should not commit adultery or go against in cheating on our spouses, or we should respect our parents. We should not steal from other people. We should respect those commandments. Those are 6, but the previous 4, it's almost as if by some religious systems is non-existent. I basically say this because there are still that set of commandments which are denied by even the most powerful religious systems known today, who declares to be Christians. What happened once with the 3 men who decided to follow God and not men occurred again in the Dark Ages, where people declined to follow the Bible teachings in exchange for the belief in man-made philosophies. And this same story is soon to come. You see, people who believe in the Bible were punished and put to death if they did not recant on their faith. We read of this taking place in the book of Revelation chapter 12 verse 17, where it's prophesied with the following. And the dragon was angry with the woman, and went away to make a war against the rest of his seed, who keep the orders, or also known as the commandments of God, and the witness of Jesus Christ. My dear listeners, it is my desire that you keep in mind whom God, your Creator, is. That you worship Him who made the heavens and the earth, the fountains of water, and all that in them is, in the way that He desires you and I to give His glory, to give Him worship, in the way that He desires you to keep His commandments, the commandments that He established and that He described in the Word, His Word, from the beginning of times. My friends, yes, it is my desire that when you come together for worship and to seek the Lord, it should be your one aim to honor Him whose requirements are all equal and just. His will declared to you in His Word is to be carried out to the letter. The rule of righteousness revealed in the lives of His professing people is to make them conspicuous. We are to live with an eye single to the glory of God, ever seeking to be Christians in every sense of the word. I am Dr. Dancy, and today I choose to love God, worshiping Him, and worshiping how He desires me to worship, keeping His commandments, and having the faith of His Son Jesus Christ, God Himself. Regardless, yes, regardless of consequence. How about you? Have you listened to our mental health podcasts? It's called Gluten Time. You can follow and listen to Gluten Time with Dr. Dancy and Dr. Nard on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Remember to follow and comment on our Adventist Reflections Network media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and see when we release new episodes. We also have podcasts in Spanish. Go check them out. God bless you.